Hello and welcome back to the Showdown in St. Louis. We've got round 2 of the Rapid, and as we saw for the first game of the Rapid, every round in Rapid proves to be topsy-turvy, with the results changing even among such world-class players like Nakamura and Caruana. Nakamura had an edge, Caruana had an edge, and ended up in a draw.
Yeah, but it wasn't just an edge for Hikaru. He had a huge advantage. I thought very close to winning, in fact, and he spoiled it. And he ended up having to defend rook and knight versus rook. So confidence booster, I would say, for Fabi, because Hikaru said it well. He said of all of the different chess variants they were playing, that this was the one that was the most difficult, the rapid chess, for Hikaru. He felt he had a big advantage in the other disciplines. And we'll see how he does it with the black pieces in game 2.
And this is a time control, you guys. It's game 15 with a 10-second increment, so I like to call it rapid. And just because rapid can be as long as game 25.
With 10.
Yeah, exactly. And meanwhile, the blitz chess is going to be super quick. We've got a game 3 with a 2-second increment, so that's going to go at the speed of Maurice talking.
Which is pretty difficult.
That's right, that's pretty fast. And we've got Nakamura and Caruana smiling and laughing. That's nice to see. It's so important because these two guys, of course, are #1 and #2 on the Olympic team. Although Wesley So, not that far behind.
Right.
But
and, well, as I asked Fabi, he said, well, who's #1 on who's the tournament, who's going to be our Olympic leader? Well, that's what we're finding out in this Showdown in St. Louis, and the clocks have been started.
Clocks have started, that's right, and we've got a Sicilian.
Oh.
Rosalibo. Okay, so
again,
we saw this in another game.
Rosalibo, knight f3, knight c6, bishop b5. Fabiana's ducking the discussion of an open Sicilian with d4 in the first move. He's played bishop b5.
And
let me get it.
And we have got another Sicilian in the other game, so Sicilian lovers, this is your round.
Well, it's strange. My board isn't updating at the moment, so I do apologize for that.
It seems like the other game
is
this would be between Yifan and no, not yet. Maybe it will go in that direction between Yifan and Negi. So far, it's
I've got it.
Just so far, just e4, c5, knight f3, d6. So this could steer into a knight or after d4, but for some reason, Yifan is taking this moment to think.
Perhaps
that's surprising.
And she has played d4, by the way, going into a knight. But going back to our game between Hikaru, we have the Rosalibo, bishop b5, d6, takes, and e5.
I thought that this was...
I'm not so familiar with e5 in this exact position.
I've seen this before, but I thought it wasn't much for white.
Captures right away.
Oh, captures right away, knight e5, f6, it looks like Hikaru's played.
Exactly.
With the idea that if a knight takes c6, there's queen d5, but what about queen h5 check?
That's the question. What
this
about
is something
queen
that
h5
clearly
check?
has to be analyzed at home, my friends.
G6 box, only move,
so knight takes g6, you would think that, you would think on first glance that this is just wonderful for white, because we've just picked up an exchange and a pawn. But Hikaru has something in mind here? Or maybe it was in a different position that he had something in mind.
Well, he has played f6, so we do have this position on the board, white to play. White could play this move, queen h5 check, which everybody wants, and he has played it. G6, only move, knight takes g6.
So is there anything else here is the question?
And the answer is no, because in fact, this is the position that
so what
has
is this,
appeared
king f7 here or something?
I'm not sure. I'm wondering if...
Or queen d5.
Queen d5.
Probably queen d5, yeah.
Well, first of all, the knight is hanging, so queen d5 does protect the knight. It introduces the counter threat of queen takes g2, so we'll castle to protect g2. Now the question is, can black trap white's queen, which is definitely an enemy territory, but at the moment, the queen is looking like it's ready to return to h4 and knight c3. Sorry, I don't see it.
What about bishop a6? Can't we stick bishop a6 in somewhere and then castle queenside?
I don't think so,
You don't think it's going to be enough?
You're
just going to in-between move me with knight c3.
And guess what? Even if you capture my rook on f1, big deal. I'll bring my queen back. I'm already a pawn up. What am I missing? I'm missing something here, Maurice, and the computer engines are about to tell me what it is.
The engines are shaking their heads just like you are, because it doesn't look like there's anything here. It looks very clear at the moment anyway that Nakamura is simply down material. That's it. And that's hard to believe in this position. So we're going to see the mystery get solved somehow after queen to d5, which was played, castles, and now king to f7. And the engine's just saying, we're just up a whole 3 points in exchange. And is it a pawn as well?
Yes.
Yes. And your weaknesses. And what? Just make a few moves, knight out, pawn out, bring the bishop into the game. This position is cold-cut winning as far as the engines are concerned. So this is bizarre. Nakamura must have looked at it, though. f6 is not a move you make and allow queen h5 check. Truly, truly mysterious situation on the board right now. If it's some deep analysis, it's going to be amazing. Pure and simple. But he's playing very quickly. He has not gone below 15 minutes as yet. He's at 15:24. That means that he has kept going fast, getting the increments, getting the 10 seconds per move. And Caruana has to be wondering, what is the big deal? What is the big deal? And it looks like Nakamura is trying to remember his analysis. I mean, think about it. If he looks the way he's looking at the board, he's like, I think it's supposed to go like this now. Which means he went into this line on purpose?
Yes, for sure.
But it looks awful. I mean, it really does just look awful as you look at it. It doesn't look like he has any real compensation. The engines are saying any move for white is good. And maybe, can you imagine the preparation, sitting at home looking at this line and preparing it and saying, yeah, you know what, I think maybe we could give up an exchange and a pawn and it's going to be just fine. This is bizarre and amazing. If it's all sound, this would be just total human ingenuity. You could never guess at this variation if you had the white pieces. You could never guess that he would play this line.
Well, he's played the move f5, introducing the idea of knight f6 into the game. But the problem with f5 is it also opens up the h3 square as a retreating option for the queen. So
Because the bishop no longer
covers
h. But
so knight f6, if we could play knight f6 and remove the pawn on f6 from the board, just make a special move where we get rid of x6 and play knight f6, notice that the queen indeed would be trapped.
Then it would be trapped.
But that is not the case here. So, I mean, knight f6 and queen h3, f4, is that a threat?
No.
Talking about threats is not even the right word. There are no real threats here.
None.
Black, if you look at it, clearly the queen can come out. The queen is going to be free. So just objectively looking at this board, the queen is safe. The question is, what does white have? What does black have that says, I have full compensation for the fact that I've just donated an exchange and I'm still looking at 7 to 6 too? What did you get? I mean, it's amazing. There is the only thing you can look at and really point to is the light square bishop, right? He has the light square bishop, and the other and Nakamura has a light square bishop. White does not. That's it. Aside from that, you can't say great pawn formation. Your pawn formation sucks. Your king position is better. No, your king position is worse. Open files. No open files for the rook. Nope. What do you point to? This just looks bad. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's bad for black.
I think
just go stretch. Say it's bad for black. This is incredible that this has happened. I think he made a mistake going into the line. He mixed up lines, and now he's just in a lost position.
He mixed this up with something similar, probably. Maybe something where there was a queen trap with knight f6.
Yes, I think so. I think that's what happened. He just like a mistake. We saw him do it in the game yesterday where he played queen d2. Remember he said he played queen d2 instead of queen d3 in that game with, what was that? What was the game? Was it game 1 where he played queen d2 instead of queen d3, queen d2 instead of queen d3 in the Basque. It was in the Basque, that's right. So all the way back then. And he said, if I just played queen d3, it would have been different. Now it looks like one of those, f6, queen h5, one of the most incredible mistakes you'll see on a chessboard from a player of this level. And I think he's just lost. I think he's in big trouble, and Fabi is not confused anymore. Looking at this, it's his rightful play should win this game.
No, and he's actually just going for it here, moving his knight into the attack in this roundabout way, capitalizing on the weak g5 square. So he's played a series of moves that might look at first a little strange, but in fact it looks like Nakamura is going to have some trouble now dealing with knight g5 and bishop f4 both flooding into the position.
Actually, he played the top move by the engine. Knight e2 was the engine's top move.
Well, he's played knight e2 and he's routed his knight over to h3, where now these key g5 and f4 squares are now ripe for the taking. And indeed, he has played knight g5 check.
Forcing the king to drop back to keep protection of the knight. And I think at this point, Fabiano is ready to drop his queen back so that in case the knight comes out, he'll have opportunity to trade. Remember, it's not just an exchange, it's an exchange and a pawn. So this is just like overwhelming from a material point of view, simply overwhelming for white. And after rook to e1, bring the bishop to f4 and bishop to e5, it's just one. And Hikaru is just looking, he's just curled up his lip, and Hikaru is just like,
he's lost.
What have I done?
This
what have I done?
Completely lost.
Gross.
And look at how disgusted he is. And that's a clear indication he cannot believe it. This is just one of the worst games you have ever seen him play. And there goes bishop f4.
Bishop f4. Well, actually, even prettier because Nakamura played e5 to prevent bishop f4 and knight e6, but bishop f4 anyway because if takes knight e6, obviously winning the house there with the bishop on g7 intake. So
that's a body blow.
Fabiano, I like how Fabiano's not thinking that long. He's just really saying, you think you're better than me at blitz, but not when you let me play queen h5 check.
Well, this ain't blitz. Like you said, the rapid is where he's going to have a chance. This is not blitz, but bishop f4. You can virtually resign. The engines are up at 5-point lead. That's a full rook. For those of us who know rook equals 5 points, this is over.
Well,
rook
e5 and bishop e5 are threats here because you can't touch the bishop because of. I mean, I think that would be a threat. No, maybe not. So what's the threat here?
You wanted to say that bishop. So you're saying, like, for example, after rook b8.
Let's see, how do we get this?
You were saying, oh, well, rook takes e5, bishop takes e5. You saw the mate, but it's so rare to have a bishop on e8 that it's actually not a checkmate on f7.
There's another threat, guys, coming. Possible queen takes g7 check right now is a nasty threat. Queen takes g7. So if rook to b8, queen takes on g7, the engines are pointing out that would just bishop takes e5,
Yikes.
and thank you very much, and bye-bye, you don't need to play this one again. But it looks like he's instead played bishop f6, right, to deal with the threat, and queen to b7, ouch. Look at that one. Now the threat of knight h7, mate on the board, and the rook is hanging in the corner. Time to stop, call it in, throw in the towel. This one's over. This one should be resigned right now. What is a miniature 20 moves, queen b7. Nakamura should not make another move now, and he will be disgusted with himself for this mistake. Look at that face telling the entire story.
Knight h7.
One of his worst games you've ever seen him play. I've not seen Nakamura allow this, and it's all from an opening mess up. Somehow he just thought something was right. And instead, he's continuing.
Taking the knight that was threatening to play knight h7 mate.
And now ignoring that bishop
takes e5 we can take instead, right? We can just take bishop takes e5.
That's what he did. With the mate threat on g7, the rook hanging on a8. No counterplay at all. This is over. It's just a question of when you resign, because it's over.
It's not hyperbole to say this is the worst game I've seen.
Yeah, I've never seen Hikaru
it's a rapid game, though.
It's a rapid
worst any game. I mean, period.
You just don't see.
You don't see him play like this. He would not play like this in blitz.
In Bullet.
In Bullet.
There it is. He's resigned.
Gosh.
Unbelievable.
And the match is even.
Unbelievable loss.
Wow.
I want to know what the reference is for this allowing queen h5 check. It must be some very similar opening where it's allowable and like some kind of twist there.
Well,
perhaps maybe with a.
There's a lot of gambits, either like this Janos gambit and the Rui Lopez, where you allow this queen h5 check. But in this particular position, just turned out to be awful. Wrong position for the move f7, f6. If Hikaru wanted to play queen d5, which he actually did later, he could have started right away with queen d5 attacking the knight, and if the knight was forced to drop back, then play bishop g4, and we've got everything that looks like a reasonable chess game. Instead, this howler F6, a howler
wow.
move.
Wow.
And then it's just an exchange, and then actually very nice play, because there is a chance that the queen could get kicked around and bad things might happen. But Fabi just played it really well. This whole knight e2, he maneuvered his knight from c3 all the way over to h3, and now suddenly the queen was on the offense. It wasn't just simply a target, and just crushed.
Bishop f4 is nice.
This
Yeah,
was the
very
really
nice.
nice move.
By the
Yeah.
way, if you saw this in a simul, yes, I mean, this is the
Yes.
kind. Honestly,